Good morning / good afternoon. Welcome to the transparency. Those of you guys that have been following Letcher County sheriff and judge, good friends, and then all of a sudden, Sheriff Mickey Stines, his name's Shawn, by the way. So you're going to see like Kentucky versus Shawn Stines. So, but people refer to him in the town, Mickey, and boom, sheriff shoots the judge. There's video recording of it. All right. But is the video recording clipped to only show that portion? Obviously, there's a lot more that transpired, as we can see that they're already, in the chambers, are already conducting conversation. So this is the arraignment. So those of you guys are going to be following us with this case. There's a lot more behind this story than the sheriff one day just decides to shoot his buddy friend, the judge. Okay. I already know certain things that have gone on in that town. Research that's been done, FOIA requests that's been done, and then sources who have supplied proof of things that they have saw, heard, things like that. A lot of articles being written in that area about what has truly gone on in Letcher County for quite some time. And basically what we are seeing, in my opinion, right now, how I see it, is this is the fallout from all of the fuckerage. So this is now a chance, though, for people in Letcher County to, if you've been a victim of the stuff that's gone on there, you got all eyes on Letcher County right now. And so those victims out there, I hope and pray that that you talk to somebody and that, overcome that fear of speaking out because of what's going to happen to you if you do speak out. Because victims shouldn't be afraid. So let's see what's going on. Again, this is the arraignment. They decided that they are charging Mickey with murder. So this is not something that just, happened in, the heat of the moment. So Mickey, Kentucky, is charging Shawn Mickey Stines with murder. So let's take a look. So hello to everybody. Hopefully those notifications click in at some point and you can catch this on replay. But here we go. And I have it all the way turned up. There he is, coming in. He's shackled with his hands, his feet. His family is in the first row. Now, Law and Crime was in there for like 37 minutes before the hearing started. So they scan the gallery, the crowd. There you go again. There's Mickey's lawyer on the left and right, the female and male. Here we go.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor, and also the Honorable Gene Cox as well, Your Honor.
All right, how are you?
Thank you.
Now, Commonwealth is represented this morning by Mr. John Green.
Jackie Steele, Your Honor.
Jackie Steele. And your co-counsel in this case
Is Miss Ramsey
is
Down?
assigned to the Attorney General's office.
That is correct.
And that's Ramsey Dowland, and she is in trial elsewhere.
She is, I believe it's in Green County, Your Honor.
Correct.
Yes.
Right, we are here this morning for arraignment purposes. All right, counsel, have you had the opportunity to review the indictment report?
We have, Your Honor, we've taken a look at the indictment. We got an electronic copy of it on Friday.
Do you desire to waive any of the,
We'll waive a formal reading and enter a not guilty plea at this time, Judge.
and you're satisfied that Mr. Stines is aware of his rights?
Yes,
And
Your
the
Honor.
nature and substance of his murder trial?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Yes. Judge, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt the court. We filed a notice to preserve all evidence, and I have no doubt that Mr. Steele, will do that. We filed that down in district court. I just want to renew that, and I will file a written notice as well, Your Honor. And I would just ask the court to go ahead and enter a discovery order.
No objection to the preservation, Your Honor.
All right. And in terms of the discovery order, I understand that it is your intention to deliver discovery to defense counsel within 7 to 10 days.
That is correct, Your Honor. Ms. Down actually has that. We didn't know when the arraignment was going to be, and didn't have an opportunity for me to get it from her.
Fantastic. That works for us, Judge.
All right. No entry of a plea of not guilty. You will note, counsel, my original intention in this case was to review bond for purposes of issuing the warrant of arrest.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in this case, I went ahead and set a no bond.
Yes, Your Honor.
Consistent with the district court's findings. After significant consideration, given the implications of Marcy's law, community safety concerns, security concerns, the fact that the defendant is in fact charged with a capital offense, together with provisions of Rule 402, paragraph 1, the defendant shall not be admitted to bond at this time.
Yes, Your Honor.
That will be a matter of trial judge's case. Anything else covered in preliminary nature?
Oh, absolutely, Judge, and I believe that my understanding was that the court simply doesn't want to take up bond at this time, but we can still file an adversarial bond.
You have every right to file for an adversarial bond hearing, and that would, I think, be more affirmative for the trial judge's case. Anything else at this time?
No, Your Honor.
No need for the call, Your Honor.
I will ask that everyone be seated and remain seated until the defendant is escorted out of the courtroom.
Sir, may we be excused for the court order?
It's my understanding that this goes directly to
Sure.
so the issue of notice that we need
Yes, Your Honor.
Wow, this must be a new thing that they use, the white noise. This is what they did in Delphi. The white noise that you're hearing there is that you can't hear the, well, if you want to call it a sidebar, but it's interesting. Right there is, I'm only muting it right now because it's, to hear that white noise is a lot, but right there, as you guys could see, Mickey was looking back. That's his family, wife, daughter, son. I saw your guys' comments in chat. Yeah, it's nothing I could do about the sound. That's what we're given. The AGs are on this case. I saw what you guys were writing in chat as far as Mickey looking like he was sedated. I think he looked the same way the last time he was in court. So he'll be held no bond, but they can file an adversarial bond for a hearing. I'm going to look into a little bit of that. I personally think that this judge has a warm feeling to her, and I love it because I think that you can be kind, nice, and still do your job. You don't have to be a bitch and be a judge. So I want to tell you guys that this woman, just like, I don't know, she just makes me feel some type of way in a good way. She reminds me of like the grandma from Happy Gilmore. Okay. So for what it's worth. Yeah, Grandma Gina. Jesse, welcome to the transparency, new member. And Karen catching on the live, $999.99. And I always call it $999.99. Karen, we love you. We love you. Sherry D says, oh God, I'm sorry. The judge has a little bit of an ET feel to me. Well, that would be with her looks maybe there. It's funny that you say that. One of my ex-mods reminded me of ET. But her warm, fuzzy, like smiling and looks like she enjoys her job, you know? So I appreciate somebody that actually enjoys their job and isn't a raging bitch. And guys can be bitches too. Let's not kid ourselves. I think guys hate when you call them bitches. Anyways, the Honorable Cox there. Are they having a judge join their team? The defense. I'm going to take a look into that. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but the Honorable, I think they said Jim Cox. Let's take a look. Let me see if I can rewind that. Right here. Okay.
Honorable Jim Cox as well.
Jim Cox, Honorable Jim Cox. All right, yeah. All right, so the Honorable Jim Cox is joining the defense. All right, those of you guys that don't know about this case, I will be covering this case. This is one of my cases that I'll be covering. Let me tell you guys my list for 2025. If you guys want to write it down, feel free. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. The Dr. Moore, Dr. Drake civil case is in January of 2025, January 25th, 2025. Right before that, I will be at the huge suppression possible Franks hearing on January 23rd in Idaho for the Idaho 4 Brian Kohlberger case. And then the Dr. Moore, Dr. Drake case is at the end of January going into the beginning of February. Then the Karen Reed case is actually still slated for the end of January, beginning of February. But they did put a joint motion in to push that back to April of 2025. TNT will be covering that. Then we are expected to have the Brian Kohlberger case, if it does in fact go to trial. I am predicting that it will. It just matters of what the prosecution is going to be able to use at trial. So that will be at the middle of August. So I'll be bouncing back and forth from Boise to home, because as of right now, the Kohlberger case will be streamed, but I want to be out there for jury selection as long as it is open to the public, which right now it is. Then after the Kohlberger case, we have what will be starting like pretty much like right after that is the Shanna Gardner, Jared Brightigan murder for hire Jacksonville Jose Baez case. And then this Mickey Stines is my next case. I think there's a lot going on in this case. This is not just a sheriff that woke up one day, went into chambers and shot this man. Okay. I'm curious to see what comes out in this case that has to do with the corruption that's been going on in Letcher County, that includes law enforcement personnel commingling with criminals and basically working together to monopolize on different business ventures that are backed by the government, such like a drug rehab facility. Instead of going and being put into jail or prison, we're putting you into a rehab facility and we're getting kickbacks from the government. All right. So there's a lot that I think is going on with this case. I don't cover cases where it's like, hey, this person's just so obviously guilty and a piece of shit. Okay. TNT covers cases where the public has a strong interest in what is truly going on. Okay. That to me is one of these cases. Forensic, I agree. 2025 is stacked with cases. So it's literally, if you guys follow true crime, follow our justice system, want to know what's going on, 2025 has 3 huge cases, in my opinion. Karen Reed, huge headliner, Idaho 4, and the Shanna Gardner, Jared Brightigan case. That murder for hire is not as clear cut as people want to think that it is. So what else? As far as this case goes, again, I'm curious to see what's going to be allowed to come in during this case, in terms of if this isn't murder and this is a heat of the moment, passion, the defense is going to have to show that. So the defense is going to have to show, it's kind of like an alibi, your alibi defense. So the defense is going to have to show here, they have some burden on them to show that this was, I don't think they're going to be disputing the fact that Mickey 100% shot the judge, right? It's all on camera. But was it something that it was not premeditated, it was not planned? Which it doesn't look that way to me. I mean, I don't know who would ever think that they can go into chambers with a gun and it being recorded, and who would ever plot to murder like that. But are they going to say that after he shot him, then he was about to leave and then he went back over to the desk and continued to shoot? And is that where, it's murder, but I still think the amount of time that all took place, it was still so quick that, I don't know. It's a very odd case. Absolutely there. Way to put it there, Harry Potter. Harry Potter's beard. What a name. Very weird case. Very weird indeed. people have said that the judge and the sheriff and other people in the community that are in law enforcement, they've been doing stuff, you know, bad things, and that it finally hit home, meaning that the sheriff only had a problem once it involved his daughter, type of thing. So, Karen, again with the super sticker, $999.99. I don't know how I feel about that, because if that's the case, in my personal opinion, then I mean, how dumb do we think the sheriff is? If the sheriff is a plotter and a planner and a, you know, I'm gonna get this son of a bitch for messing with my kid, right? There could have been a lot of ways to handle the judge and possibly get away with it. So for me, that's where I'm just like, something's up, you know. I want to know more about the phones. I want to know. You can't believe what mainstream media says when they're saying, was the daughter's number programmed? Who was making phone calls? We can only go off of what the clip says, and I think that there's a couple rumors out there that aren't true. So, Sweet and Salty says he snapped. You know, it looks like that. I'm interested in the judge always carries a weapon and he's always strapped, and they didn't find any weapon in the chambers. So I'm interested in that. Lana, can you show the sheriff being brought in again? Sure can. Sure can. Here he comes. Okay, right there you see he mouths. I think it looks like he says, oh God. Hold on one second. Okay, great. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's what I think he said, Murky. He said, I love you. I think he said something else right after it, though. Let me see if I can. Okay, got it back. I love you guys. I love you guys. Let's take a look. I love you guys. I think he says, I love you guys. So this is going to come down to, again, this is going to come down to a jury. A jury is going to come down to saying either this was murder or this was manslaughter. Again, coming down to our jurors. This is like a decision of like, not if he did it or didn't do it. Okay. We have now these jurors who are appointed in this case are going to be deciding if what he did was murder or not murder. So the elements of the crime must be proven by the state. Remember, the state had an opportunity to just charge him with, manslaughter, but they didn't. He's a judge, remember? So, yeah. Water, yes. It will be interesting to see what's allowed. Yep. Will be interesting. I think that everything that's been going on has everything to do with this, why there was this shooting, why there is a dead victim, why the judge is dead. I don't think that this was from, hey, whatever happened on that day, or absolutely not. So, but the only way that a jury can decide it based off of what they're allowed to hear, see, and so that's going to come down to all these pretrial motions that are filed between, now and the time that this goes to court. I mean, for the trial. So in Kentucky, yes, a law called emotional distress can get him off completely. Yes. Sherry D buying some memberships there. Woohoo! The information was so shocking for the sheriff. He snapped. I don't disagree. I don't disagree that could have definitely happened. And so that's where it's interesting to me what's going to be allowed to come in, because let's say that the prosecution's like, okay, hey, we kind of want some of this other stuff to come in to show that there is this like history of, remember the sheriff just had a deposition with the FBI like a week or two before the shooting. And so I would think that the prosecutor, if I was prosecuting this case, I don't know how much I would want to limit, because I want it to be known to the jury that this is not something new that the sheriff was facing like that day, or like this is, they knew that they were all in hot water type of thing. And so I'm just saying, if I was to prosecute this case, would it be to my benefit to show that all the shit that's been going out and around for a long time involving these two, but at the same time, as a prosecutor, then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, how is it going to look that I'm airing all of this dirty laundry out about the judge? Because it's going to come down to, why did Mickey shoot Mullins? Why? And so it's going to be on the state to prove the elements of murder. And then it's going to be on Mickey's defense team, to show that it doesn't meet those elements because of X, Y, and Z. According to a couple people out there, they say that if they can prove that the judge was having relations with his minor daughter, and that he just found out about that, in that setting, would that constitute as, I think it's going to come down to also like that they had lunch that day. What was said at that lunch? Do we need to talk? If any of that's true. Then people want to talk about that he had mental health. There was mental health going on with the sheriff. And I think that's going to be interesting because I would think that somebody that is the sheriff and has a gun and running the town during a mental health crisis, what's going on with that? Like, so was this ever documented? Who's saying that? And, or he was just acting weird. A lot of rumors are going to be burned down to the ground here. This is going to stop the rumor mill. And hopefully it gets to the bottom of a lot of what's been going on in that town. And it's horrible that somebody had to die, okay, for the stuff that's been going on in that town. Like, why are the feds there? Why were the feds deposing, the sheriff? I think all of this is relevant. But I also know how judges are and how prosecutors are, and I think something's relevant, and then I find out here, holy shit, how are they keeping this out? How is this happening? How are these motion and lemonades? Just so you guys know, it's really not lemonades, but how are they going through? And okay, yep, that's out. I think the guy that testified in the last hearing is a complete fucking liar, though. I will say that. Okay, I think he lied in the stand. So another divided town. Yep, looks that way. Looks that way. Motions and lemonade and Alpha Davids. There you go. Yes, I believe with that. The guy that was with the Kentucky State Police that testified at the last. I mean, he was so clueless. It felt like, I don't know. I didn't ask that, or I didn't. What have you been doing? How do you not? What? But then again, it's like you don't want to know certain things so that way you can get up on the stand and say what he kind of said. So maybe a veteran detective knew, like, hey, I'm not going to do certain things because I'm going to be the one that has to testify or take the stand and talk about his, I believe that was his preliminary hearing. I think that was right. Let's take a little look at that. Yeah, super quick. This is his arraignment. And just so you guys know, this little arraignment here, I don't know if you guys know this, but Richard Allen never had an arraignment. Richard Allen was never arraigned until August of 2024. Wild. Let me take a look at, if I go to, yeah, here. I'm going to play a little clip from the preliminary hearing. And I'll show you what I'm talking about.
uh, a report that might
in the process.
Okay.
That's all I have wrong.
So remember, he plays this clip that is really brief.
I'm going to object, approach.
Yes, approach the bench.
So they're objecting when they play just like the little pieces of it.
And did you retrieve the videos from past footage?
I did.
Here at this time, the council move to play video footage.
All right.
And so all they're saying is all we're gonna do is play this, and this gives us our obviously probable cause. So now the clips we wanna.
And also, who had the firearm?
Sheriff Stines.
And then, judge was also in his black robe.
Yes,
Do you know what portion of the courthouse that is?
that is the judge's chambers
And where's that located at, physically located?
in the Letcher County Courthouse.
That's all I have wrong.
Okay, so here's
Cross-examined witness.
the cross-examination of this detective. Listen to
This
these.
a short clip that was played there. How long do you believe that clip was?
That we just watched,
Yes,
just 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
15 seconds. In fact, the video that was taken in the judge's chambers between the meeting between Sheriff Steins and Judge Mullins, it's my understanding that video lasted much longer, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review the video
I have.
of the prior incident?
I have.
And can you describe for us what happened immediately prior to the clip that we saw?
Sheriff Steins uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that.
See how he uses the words he appears to make a call on that? I want you guys to hear the difference of language. So appears to make a phone call. Now watch this though. If you back up, when he says Sheriff Steins uses his telephone to make some phone calls. Like to make some phone calls. It's not to, it appears that he's making phone calls. Okay. So the language here is really interesting. So Sheriff Steins is using his telephone to make some phone calls, not would appear to be making some phone calls, right?
Steins uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that.
I'm curious as to why he says appears to. As to why wouldn't you say, well, it appears that he was making phone calls, but only that part is it appears.
And that led.
And that's cop language. For I can say that it appears that he's looking at I'm just going off of it. But in fact, if I got to see his phone records and saw that there really wasn't a call made, then I would know that. It's just interesting.
To what you just saw.
Okay. So it's my understanding there were some people who were having a meeting with Judge Mullins prior to the sheriff's entry into the chambers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you identified those witnesses?
I don't know the names of them. There's about approximately 4 people in.
How do you not know the names of the people that would have been in that room prior to that? How do I know the names? How do I know the names? How do I know the names of those 4 people in there?
There. Then Sheriff Steins enters the judge's chambers and everybody else clears out.
You don't know their names?
Not right off, no.
Have you prepared a report?
In
Might,
the process, yes,
you're in the process of preparing a report,
yes, a lot of information.
but you've not spoken to any of those witnesses?
I'm not directly, but they've all been interviewed. There's recorded interviews of those people in the case.
Okay, so other officers have spoken with those 4 witnesses?
Yes.
And what is your understanding of what those 4 witnesses have said?
I don't recall.
Do you guys know what I don't recall means? You want to know who says I don't recall? Unbelievable right there. I don't recall what they said. Excuse me? So, Sherry D, this is where I say, is the detective on the stand lying? Well, I guess he didn't technically lie there. I don't recall. But if you truly do know, then it is a lie. But the people that say I don't recall are the people that are going through divorces, and they don't recall things as well.
You have no idea what they said?
No.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
There-
You see that little smirk from Mickey right there? You a lie. Look at, watch right here. Watch his little facial
Those 4
expression.
witnesses have said?
I don't recall.
You have no idea what they said?
No.
I want to make sure I understand, had there been a hearing previously this day in chambers?
In the courtroom?
No, in chambers.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And so there's a video camera that is running in the district judge's chambers. Is that on all the time?
It's my understanding, yes.
And have you spoken with anyone about why that may be?
No. I mean, there's cameras throughout the courthouse.
Well, fair enough, but are you familiar with district judges' chambers normally, how they're set up?
No. I mean, some of them have video surveillance and some don't.
Right, but
This one does.
generally, when they have surveillance, you'd agree with me that that is utilized when there is a proceeding going on in chambers, correct?
It could be, yes.
It could be.
And I mean, I'm just asking, so this video didn't have an audio recording to it, correct?
There's no audio.
Outside of once the 4 people that were inside that we don't know their names, once these 4 people had left the chambers, were they in an area adjacent where they could hear anything that was going on?
Yes, I believe some of them did remain in the next room.
Okay, and
So now he recalls that. He said, did you recall anything from those interviews? No. Now he recalls where these people went and sat.
what did they tell us?
Do I?
What did they hear?
I've not been I wasn't part of those interviews.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you're prepared for a preliminary hearing on a murder, and there are witnesses in an adjacent
I
room.
mean, they heard
Now, please,
gunshots.
my question, please.
Yeah, let me ask the questions.
Thank you, officer. So you are investigating a murder and testifying at a preliminary hearing, and there are witnesses who may have overheard what preceded this edited clip. Yet you can't tell us today anything that they said?
I've not personally listened to those interviews. I've talked.
I have not personally listened to those interviews. You guys, this is exactly why. This is why. This is a tactic. Okay. Well, wait, why, Lana? Because so he can come in here and say exactly what he's saying. or he truly listened to them and is lying. Either way, like what's the problem here? Like why is there such a big, like, how long would it have taken you to listen to 4 interviews? Or if you're like the lead on this case, like you weren't, who did you have interview these people? Like peons? Like, okay, they were interviewed. I'm sure they were probably interviewed more than once. Like, let's not get it twisted. But what were you doing that was more important than listening to what 4 witnesses would have had to say about a judge being shot by a sheriff in chambers?
To the other officers that did those interviews.
Fair enough. And I mean, we're here at a preliminary hearing, as you know, that you can testify to hearsay. I'm asking you what they said.
They heard gunshots.
Okay. Was there any statements that they overheard?
No,
Were there raised voices?
there, one person stated that she didn't recognize him as being Judge Mullen's voice, but heard somebody say, help, help.
Presumably that.
I thought he didn't know. I thought he didn't listen. Now he knows what one of the witnesses said, or heard rather. Make it make sense for me, who's just sitting here like, wait a second. I thought he didn't watch any of the interviews. I thought he didn't talk to anybody. I didn't do the interviews. Well, you're allowed to testify to hearsay. That's like part of the process with preliminary hearings and grand juries, right? You just have to be qualified to testify to that. And see, like me, I would be saying, well, I thought you didn't remember any of this. Like,
That would be after the firearm was drawn or shot.
Objection, Your Honor.
I would draw, Judge. Okay. So is there any testimony that you can give us?
I think it's interesting of what was just asked, and his answer was that one of the witnesses heard somebody saying help, but it wasn't the voice of, so here we go. Listen.
One person stated that she didn't recognize him as being Judge Mullen's voice, but heard somebody say, help, help.
Okay, right there. So you have a witness saying that the voice that you guys all heard yelling, help, help, wasn't the judge. Whose voice was it then? That's kind of, that's always been interesting, you know, because this has been clipped and edited, you know, so all they showed in court here is just the moment of the gun being drawn by Sheriff Stines on to Mullins. So then that means the part that he's referring to here would be the part that wasn't shown in court. Okay. So was there somebody else in that room? Or is this woman or witness just confused of really what people's voices sound like?
Presumably that would be after the firearm was drawn or shot.
Objection, Your Honor.
I would draw, Judge.
That was a stupid question right there. I have no idea why he asked that. That is absolutely like, that's kind of like you're unprepared right there to me. Why are you assuming that it would be after that? Why wouldn't you ask the question of oh, wait, so was there another person in there? So was it did the witness think that it was my client asking for help? Like, I mean, I don't like that question. I thought that was really, really poor.
Okay. So is there any testimony that you can give us today about any statements or arguments or the content of that argument prior to the shooting?
No.
Okay.
How about this? Do you know who would have that information? Do you know who would have that information? Who interviewed the witnesses? But see, in a preliminary hearing, you could go one of two ways. You either don't want to show all your hand, okay, or you're trying to get information out of the state. Just
Um, I want to ask generally, so did you process the scene? Are you the lead investigator on this case?
I am.
where when I heard that live, I said, okay.
Okay, so as a lead investigator, I would presume that you would have secured the chambers and evidence once you arrived.
I was part of that, yes.
You were part of it, right? But you were the lead investigator, so you'd be.
That's actually not true. Whoever the first responders are that are involved with law enforcement, and if they were involved in roping off the scene, like usually that's usually not a detective, just so we're clear.
In charge of those duties and delegating what should be done. Is that
No.
fair?
No, I don't delegate what's done.
Okay, so you're the lead investigator. What does that mean?
I'm the case officer.
Okay, so you're carrying the case.
He still didn't answer that. I'm the case officer. Okay, then what does the case officer do?
So I want to make sure I understand, had Judge Mullins been removed from chambers when you arrived?
No,
Were you able to ascertain, did he have a firearm on his person?
we did not locate one.
You did not locate one?
No, there's not one in the chambers.
Okay. And there was none on his person?
No.
And now I've been told that this is wild because he always has a gun on him. So that's interesting.
All right, who was the first person to arrive on behalf of law enforcement to investigate?
They were already in the courthouse.
Fair enough, but I'm talking about.
That wasn't the question. They were already there. I didn't ask where they were. I asked who. I mean, is this guy...
In terms of people that we may see a report from or
Thank
take
you.
part in this investigation, who would be the first person? we would get?
I believe Trooper Jason Bates was the first KSP personnel on scene.
Okay, that means Kentucky State Police, but fuck all that. Who's local? Who's from the sheriff's department? Who's from Letcher, the PD, the local police department? It's like right there.
You spoke with him and
I did.
he searched and did not locate a firearm?
No, he didn't search the scene. No.
He didn't search the scene. Well, by God, I hope you got a search warrant for all that too.
His
Sure.
role at that point was security of the scene.
I understand, but I'm just trying to ascertain, you said earlier that there was no firearm found. I'm
No,
wanting to know, can you tell us, was it specifically searched for a firearm?
in the judge's chambers,
Yes, sir.
there was myself, Detective Chris Collins, Detective Scott Caldwell, Detective Eric Caldwell.
So we got brothers or cousins?
That's all I recall right now.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand.
Again, that wasn't the question.
So who searched specifically for a firearm?
We all did.
And that was specifically something you looked for?
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay.
So that would have been in a search warrant. That they were looking for is a firearm.
Of course, your investigation, did you ascertain that prior in the day, there had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins?
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Sorry.
The reason I think that's going to be important, guys, about this gun is because of the sheriff's movements to go back and shoot when the judge is like kind of underneath, like right there at the end before he leaves. Okay. If Mickey's always used to, like, I know he has a gun. Okay. So, and I thought he wasn't going to shoot me because I know he has a gun on him. So that's why that would be important. And so for the fact that they're saying there was no gun, that still wouldn't change if Mickey always knew that, like, he had a gun on him. Now we're going to get into, was that gun removed? Because I don't know if you can just, why would you need a search warrant after the crime? Because you have to get, it's just how it goes. It's, you have to obtain a search warrant. If let's say that this crime would have happened outside on a public like street, you don't need a search warrant to search like public roadways, you know.
Someone, I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being trite. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Street Side. It's just down the street from the courthouse.
Okay. And it's my understanding there were a couple of other people who attended the luncheon.
There were several, yes.
Okay. And at some point after that, they wrapped up lunch and left, obviously, and went back to the courthouse. Are you aware of anything so far in your investigation that would tell us there was any issues at lunch between Judge
No,
Mullins and Sheriff Stines?
no.
Okay. Had someone on behalf,
That answer helps, in my opinion, when you're talking about murder versus, heat, crime of passion, that would actually help the defendant there.
of the KSP has spoken to those witnesses?
Yes, they've all been interviewed.
And there was nothing unusual that had
So he's saying everybody at that cafe, that bar, was interviewed, restaurant.
arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Do you know the context of
I do,
what the conversation was before that they would need to discuss in chambers?
I do not.
So it's my understanding that in the larger portion of the video that we haven't had access to, that there is a point when Sheriff Stines asked for to see the telephone of Judge Mullins.
Yes,
Is that a yes? I mean,
yes,
yes, okay. And I would presume that you and the other officers you mentioned, when you secured the scene, that you secured those phones as well. Is that correct?
yes.
And have you reviewed both of those phones?
They're currently at the forensic lab at this time being downloaded. I have had discussions with,
You guys, is this guy insane for us to believe that he thinks that? How long do you guys think it takes to download a phone? First of all, it depends on how much is on there. Second of all, he's trying to say that these phones are still being downloaded at the lab, and which would mean he hasn't had access to them.
the people at the lab regarding the downloads.
And those are a couple of other questions that I was going to ask you, but my original question was, have you reviewed or are you aware of the content of the phones?
I've not personally seen it because I've not received those reports yet.
Okay, again, based upon your conversations with the officers, are you aware of any recent content that was up and could have been relevant at the time of their discussion?
I was told that Sheriff Stines had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
So,
So the way he testifies right there is that he was trying to call his daughter, Because then he says, and then he tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone. Okay.
Have you obtained the phone records from Judge Mullins's phone?
I don't have those in my possession yet. No.
Okay, have you issued a search
Yeah,
warrant for them?
Yes,
Okay, and have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins's phone?
yes.
Okay,
So, yes.
so that number had been called from Judge Mullins's phone, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
So we don't have a viewing of what transpired during that exchange of phones. But based upon your review of those moments prior to, when Sheriff Stines observes that cell phone, was he previously seated?
Yes.
That's important.
Okay, so in the clip we saw, he was standing the entire time.
He was
Exactly.
seated in front of the judge's desk.
Exactly. So important.
And he looks at the cell phone. What is it? Can you describe his reaction in the video that we haven't seen?
Whose reaction?
Well, the sheriff.
You can't see his face in the video.
Okay, but is it clear that, does it appear to you that, I don't know, let me rephrase this. Did he stand up after
Yes.
looking at the phone?
He stood up.
And how long after he looked at the cell phone and stood up did this occur that you played?
Just seconds.
Did you make the decision?
Just seconds. So this is all going towards showing that this was this isn't premeditated. This is happening like boom, 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 boom. So quick. No decision, no premeditation. Okay. I mean, his answers, when he's getting any answers out of this man.
Vision is on edits today for what you were going to present. In terms of, did you make the edit or determine
No.
which portion of the video we were going to see today?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Both cell phones have been sent to
That means the prosecutor made the decision.
the Kentucky State Police Forensic
Yes.
Team, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you gotten any early report on what was found?
No.
Were both phones still on the desk when you arrived?
The judge's phone was on the desk. Sheriff Stein's phone was on his person.
Okay, so are there photographs of, was the phone locked at that point or was it still open?
With both of you asking about both of them, or?
Well, first let's talk about, that's fair. First, I'm talking about Judge Mullins, since it was the one that was still on the desk and presumably nobody touched it prior to you securing it, correct?
No.
So, yeah, so would like to know about that. Have you ascertained what was currently open on that cell phone?
No, I don't know at this point.
You don't know?
No.
Okay, do you think that will be important to learn?
I hope to learn that when the report's ready, yes.
Okay. But as of today, you can't tell us
No.
what was currently open on the judge's file.
No, sir.
Mickey didn't like that answer.
Did you conduct an interview with Sheriff Stein's daughter?
I did not, but she has been interviewed.
So he didn't do the interview, but she has been interviewed. He didn't do the interview of the 4 witnesses that were there. He didn't do the interview of anybody that was at lunch. So what has this man done? You didn't interview the people at lunch. You didn't interview the 4 people that were outside chambers. You didn't interview the sheriff's daughter. That's who we've heard about so far.
You aware of who was present when she was interviewed?
Lieutenant Randy Combs and Detective Anthony Trotter.
Okay. And she was interviewed with or without her parent?
With,
So her parent was present at the time you interviewed her?
yes, I believe. I wasn't there, but yes, I think so.
The law enforcement
I believe I wasn't there.
has not spoken to her without her parent present?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did the Kentucky State Police obtain her phone?
No.
No. Why didn't you take her phone?
You intend to obtain records for her cell phone number?
Possibly, yes.
Do you believe
Possibly.
that will be soon that you'll do that?
Could be, yes.
I forgot how hot and bothered I got about this case and why I'm covering it. What are these answers? What is this shit? Does this sound like it's somebody or an active investigation that's trying to get to the truth? Is that what this sounds like? This doesn't sound like somebody, an agency that's trying to get to the truth of what happened to and why a judge is dead, right?
Had you already intended to do that, or did you just respond to my question?
Well, the call should be on the judge's records too.
Oh,
I understand.
And she's made statements about what occurred during those conversations.
I understand that, but
wait, conversations is in plural. How many conversations are we talking about?
I would presume that, have you ascertained whether Judge Mullins also had apps that stand outside of phone records?
I've not received those records yet. I don't know what's on the phone.
Fair enough, but I mean, did you look at the phone? Did it appear there were apps on it?
I'm not the person that's qualified to look through the phone.
Okay, but you're familiar with cell phones. They can host other forms of communication.
Hold on,
Yes, right.
what's the
He's
objection?
been asked the answer, Your Honor. He's asked a question, I think about 4 or 5 different ways. The officer, the detective repeatedly said he does not have to report the phones. He's not good at the phone. He can't testify that matter.
I should
Let him ask the question, and what he can only testify what he has personal knowledge about.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. So you're aware that phones can be used for apps such as Facebook?
Yes,
Okay. And that is not something that is captured by cell phone records. You would agree with me?
I agree.
So in light of that, although the records may be mutually the same, right, you know, the same between Judge Mullins's phone and the sheriff's daughter, do you believe that you could also ascertain other information from the cell phone app content?
Are you asking what apps are on the phone?
Yes. Well, that was my original question,
I
but I
don't know
thought you
what
didn't know.
else. I've not received that report yet. I don't know what apps he had downloaded on the phone.
If he has social media apps, do you intend to?
That could lead to additional search warrants. Yeah.
Ask him right now, have you wrote any search warrants pertaining to applications? Social media applications. There's other ways to communicate with people other than here's my phone records.
Yes.
If you would, officer, please let me finish before you move
So
forward. And I'll try to
ridiculous.
slow down a little bit as well, okay?
Sure.
Thank you, Trooper.
What's up, Amy and Boston?
Have you determined whether there were any previous issues, personal or professional, between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins?
I've heard things.
What have you heard?
Just that this regarding the lawsuit that the Letcher County Sheriff's Office is currently involved with.
The lawsuit that involved ultimately a criminal conviction of a deputy for sexual behavior in the judge's chambers. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, and the subject matter of that lawsuit,
Sexual behavior in the judge's chambers. I mean, wait. Let's just. Woo! I'm aware of that. Ben's wife works in the courthouse. She does. She did. I mean, this guy is so afraid to say anything. It's that obvious.
the chambers area, that's the same chambers in which this occurred. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the details of that case, that the lawsuit resulted from.
Okay.
Did you hear?
Are you aware of any criminal reports that Sheriff Stines had made of Judge Mullins prior to this day?
No.
Did you personally observe Sheriff Stines following this video?
Did I personally observe him? Well,
Did you meet with him? Did you talk to him after?
he was in custody when I arrived at the courthouse that afternoon.
And at some point, did you draw any observation about his demeanor?
He was mostly calm, I thought. I mean, I talked to him, but he didn't say nothing about why this had happened, but he was calm. He was kind of afraid that basically all I said was, treat me fair. That's basically the comments he made.
Okay. Did he also make a statement about, I don't see it in the citation here, but
Don't people usually, I don't know, take somebody in and then attempt to, have an interview with them and wait till, read them their Miranda and then, say, do you want to talk to me? Right? Isn't that what you normally do? And then once somebody says, yeah, sure, actually, I want to talk to you, or they say, no, I invoke and I want a lawyer, right? This case, though, let's take a look how they handled this case.
somewhere along the line, I saw a statement being attributed to him about protecting his family.
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid.
Right there. Do your officers wear body cams? Was this recorded?
Have you ascertained any evidence that this shooting was pre-planned?
No.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Okay, so right here, no, not at this time. So since from here, the preliminary hearing, so they have no evidence that this was pre-planned, and now we're looking at, the judge or the sheriff is up, and he's indicted for murder.
And would you agree that from what we've seen so far, from the evidence you've seen so far, the shooting was a reaction to what was on that cell phone in that moment. Is that accurate?
Objection, Your Honor. Also speculation outside of his scope of expertise.
Your Honor, I believe that if he has formed an opinion about the investigation up to this point, especially at a preliminary hearing, he could speculate on that, Judge.
Well, just that.
Sure. So, is there anything other than the content of the phone that this video will reveal to us about why this took place?
No,
Does it appear that this took place as a reaction to what was happening in the chambers at that point?
I can say it occurred after a phone call was made. I don't know what was said or nothing like that, but
Fair enough, and I'm not asking you the content of any of that, but at this point, is it your theory that whatever that content was in the discussion was the impetus of the shooting?
it could be, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay, do you have any evidence up until this point that you have developed that would demonstrate that it was not as a reaction to what was on the phone?
No,
None whatsoever?
no.
Okay. Just if I had just one moment.
And see right there, that's where I'm interested in right there. So what has developed, but and then here's the part where he asks him a couple questions about
Did you attempt to speak to Sheriff Stines at the Leslie County Jail after the incident?
No,
Did anyone from your agency attempt to interview him?
not to my knowledge, no.
what? And then there you have it. Why? What? Why would you didn't attempt to interview? Everybody does. Everybody wants to interview and get all the statements, right? Lock him into saying stuff, right? Get him to incriminate himself, right? Get as much information as you can before they lawyer up, right? They didn't even attempt. And you have to ask yourself why. It's because you don't what? You don't want that information coming out. Why would you never? I mean, I don't.
At that point, had he asserted his right to an attorney or anything?
No,
But nobody went back to try to talk to him or do an interview?
no.
Why?
I think I have one other question. In addition to cell phones that we've discussed, the cell phone of Sheriff Stines and the cell phone that you found of Judge Mullins, were there additional phones that you were able to obtain?
There was one other phone that's currently being examined. And the basic reason it was seized was there was a text conversation between Sheriff Stines and some of his employees with the sheriff's office.
Okay, and that was an additional phone of Sheriff Stines.
It was a phone of, I guess she's the, I don't know what her title is, but she's employed. She's not sworn. She's employed by the Letcher County Sheriff's Office. And she voluntarily gave her phone to the person that interviewed her.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, what, could you explain why that was relevant or germane to your investigation?
I didn't conduct that interview, but it was, I guess it was regarding the dinner at Street Side and things that led up to
You mean the lunch?
the shooting, but I don't have those results either, so I don't know exactly what was said.
What? What about the interview? I mean,
Correct
just
me if I'm wrong, I thought when we discussed that earlier, that you indicated there was no evidence that the conversations at the launch.
I haven't seen those conversations yet. I've not received the downloads from the phone.
I didn't
Right,
ask
but
about
I
that.
asked you if you're aware of any information that could have been gleaned from witnesses at that meeting, and as I recall, you said no, but there is some information that something was discussed at this launch. Is that correct?
I don't know what was discussed at lunch.
I understand, but you obtained this lady that we don't know her name, you obtained her phone in an effort or based on a belief that she would be able to demonstrate what was said at lunch. So you would agree with me, you believe that there is a witness or information that may have popped up at lunch.
There's a recorded interview with her in the case, and I'm yet to receive the downloads of the phone, so I don't know what they contain.
What did she
Okay,
say in her
well-
interview?
Has that phone been sent for
It is.
forensic examination as well?
Yes.
Thank you. Also, that's all I have. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Is Judge Mullins, he's sent to medical examiner's office for an autopsy.
He was.
Have you received that report yet?
No.
Have you had an informal conversation with him regarding his cause of death?
Yes.
And what was that?
Multiple gunshot wounds.
The video we showed earlier, that a true and accurate clear copy of what you received?
Yes.
Concluded introduced comes exhibit number 1, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Your Honor,
Yeah.
I asked, of course, all we saw today was the clip, but I asked it to be admitted in its entirety, and I'm going to
I'm gonna respond to that.
Judge, I'm only think preliminary here is required for his probable cause. This establishes probable cause. I think the entire clip is outside the purview of his proceedings today.
I think you're gonna want to see the whole video, should check earlier, I'll admit. It was short earlier, or guilty. That was quick. We got this shut it.
Hey, Detective, this is an ongoing investigation.
Yes, it is.
And as this ongoing investigation proceeds, you will be obviously interviewing more people if necessary, submitting more evidence to the lab.
Yes.
That's all I have. Your Honor.
Recross. All right, any other witnesses for the Commonwealth?
No, nothing further. Your Honor.
All right, you may speak.
All right, so that was from before, and then just wanted to play that for you guys. Yeah, so this is why I think, I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I thought that was absolutely crazy. But that should give you a really good look at the games that law enforcement plays and the prosecution plays. And it is a game because they play games in the courtroom. It's a chess match. But Mickey Stines not being interviewed after, not even attempted to be interviewed. This guy saying he doesn't know anything and then says, oh, well, this is what I heard. I don't recall. Oh, then right there at the end, some woman that works for the sheriff's department who's not sworn, she coughed up her cell phone because she had some information, but I don't know what that information is. What about did you read the interview? Did you listen to the recording? I've never heard of why police officers wouldn't want to interview or attempt to interview this man after he would have shot his friend and judge. So I guess we'll just have to ask law enforcement why you wouldn't conduct a recorded interview of Mickey Stines if he would have accepted that, So whatever. Anyways, if anybody thinks that Letcher County is this is a clear-cut case, we wouldn't be covering it here. So with that said, wrap it on up. Thank you guys for joining. If you guys just joined, just the beginning part was the arraignment, which takes about a minute. So I went back to show everybody, this was what would seem as a reactionary to everything that happened in chambers with the phone, and that you'd want to get to the bottom of that. Here, about a week ago, Mickey was indicted for murder. So curious of what they've uncovered to say, hey, this was premeditated, and this was a planned kill. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys rock. Much love. And thank you for the super stickers, chatters, Sherry D getting memberships out there for others. Amy lives Boston. Karen all over the place. $9.99.99. Cheers. Join me tonight. I'm gonna get a little fiery. If you guys are following the Idaho 4 case. If you guys are following, I think I put some thumbnails out there. So I think, yeah, the Mendez is, I think that's tomorrow. So, yeah, this case is anything but the sheriff shot the judge and murder, throw away the key. No, I think that town deserves a lot more than that. All right, guys, see you later. Peace.